When we talk about women in relationships, many men step into the journey believing that material comfort, wealth, gifts, or even physical attraction are the primary ingredients to hold a woman close. But what many men fail to recognize is that behind every word she speaks, behind every action she takes, there is a deeper longing for emotional security. This is not about luxury or status. This is about stability, certainty, and trust. A woman may enjoy the lifestyle you wish. She may appreciate the comforts you provide. But if she cannot feel safe in your presence, safe to be vulnerable, safe to express her fears, safe to dream aloud without judgment, then she cannot fully give herself to you. A man has to understand that emotional security is not a gift you wrap and hand over once. It is a state of being, a way you consistently show up every single day. It is how you handle challenges, how you manage your emotions, how you stay grounded even when storms are raging around you. Think about it for a moment. A woman's world by nature is deeply emotional. Her instincts, her decisions, her attachments are often rooted in the way she feels. This does not make her weak. In fact, it makes her powerful because emotions are the forces that move human behavior. What she looks for in a man is not someone who suppresses those emotions or dismisses them, but someone who can create a space where those emotions can exist without fear. That is what makes her feel secure. Emotional security is knowing that when she shares her heart, you won't ridicule her. Emotional security is knowing that when life tests her, you will not collapse under the pressure but will remain steady. Emotional security is knowing that no matter how beautiful or tempting the outside world appears, she remains your chosen one, and your actions reinforce that truth daily. This is where many men fail. They think providing financially is enough. They think buying flowers, paying bills, or showing off achievements will make her feel secure. But a woman sees beyond that. She notices if your mood is unstable, if your energy is inconsistent, if your promises lack follow through. She notices when your actions don't align with your words. And when that happens, no amount of material comfort can replace the void created in her heart. A man's real strength is measured not by how much he owns, but by how much peace he can create in the presence of the woman he loves. Imagine a house built on weak foundations. It may look beautiful from the outside, decorated with fine details, painted in bright colors, admired by visitors. But the moment an earthquake strikes, that house crumbles because its strength was never in its appearance. It was in its foundation. A woman looks at a man the same way. She can admire your charm, your wit, your confidence. But what she truly values is whether she can lean on you when life shakes her ground. If she feels that her heart is safe with you, that her secrets are protected, that her spirit is nourished, then she will stand by you in ways money can never buy. This is not an easy task for men because it requires inner work. It requires facing your insecurities, confronting your fears, and learning how to master your emotions rather than be controlled by them. A man who has no grip of his own inner world cannot provide emotional security to a woman. If you are quick to anger, if you avoid communication, if you run when things get hard, she feels the ground beneath her shaking. But when you learn to pause, breathe, and respond with clarity, when you learn to stay calm in chaos, when you learn to listen with empathy rather than react with judgment, she feels that her world is steady. That is emotional leadership. That is the kind of strength that makes a woman open her heart without hesitation. Understand this. A woman is not asking you to be perfect. She knows perfection doesn't exist. She doesn't expect you to have all the answers, to never feel pain, or to never stumble. What she truly seeks is the assurance that when life tests both of you, you will not abandon yourself and you will not abandon her. That is emotional security. It's not about removing every storm. It's about being the anchor in the storm. It's about proving through consistency that your love is not fragile, that your presence is not temporary, that your word is not hollow. And here is the truth most men overlook. When a woman feels emotionally secure, she blossoms. She becomes more loving, more supportive, more nurturing, more radiant. She gives herself fully because she trusts that her heart is safe. She doesn't hold back her affection. She doesn't hide her dreams. She doesn't mask her fears. She becomes your partner in the truest sense because she knows she can rely on you, not just in moments of joy, but in moments of despair. But when she feels emotionally insecure, she withdraws. She questions, she doubts, she hesitates. She guards herself, not because she doesn't love, but because her soul is protecting her from hurt. So the question every man must ask himself is this: am I providing emotional security, or am I only chasing surface validation? Am I building a connection rooted in trust, or am I relying on appearances that crumble with time? Am I mastering myself enough to be her safe place, or am I expecting her to carry the weight of both our emotions? Because the answer to those questions will determine not only the depth of her love, but also the longevity of the relationship. A man must face the reality that emotional security is not optional. It is essential. It cannot be substituted with wealth, charm, or status. It requires commitment to growth, a willingness to listen, and the strength to remain steady when everything else feels uncertain. That is the unspoken truth about women. They don't stay where they don't feel safe, and they don't thrive where they don't feel secure. Emotional security is not a demand they place on you. It is a silent expectation, one that reveals whether you truly understand what it means to love. Attraction is often misunderstood by men because they confuse the spark at the beginning with the foundation that sustains love over time. When you first meet a woman, everything feels alive, electrifying, and effortless. The chemistry is intense, the excitement is undeniable, and it feels as if this magnetic pull will last forever. But what most men fail to understand is that attraction is not a permanent state. It is not something that just stays alive on its own. Attraction is like a fire. It begins with a spark, but without attention, without fuel, without care, it eventually burns out. A woman may be drawn to your confidence, your appearance, your charm, or even your ambition in the early stages. But what sustains that attraction months and years down the line is whether you continue to grow, continue to evolve, continue to show up with the same energy that won her heart. A mistake many men make is believing that once they have her attention, the work is done. They think the relationship itself is the destination, as if the goal was only to capture her interest, not to nurture it. But the truth is, the moment you stop growing, the moment you stop putting in effort, the attraction begins to fade. Women are drawn to movement, to progress, to life force. If she feels that you are stagnant, if she senses that you are no longer striving to be better, if she sees that you are resting on the version of yourself she first fell for, she will begin to withdraw. Because attraction is not about who you were. It is about who you are becoming. Think about the energy that drew her to you in the beginning. Perhaps it was your ambition, your drive, the way you carried yourself, the confidence in your voice, or the vision you had for your life. That energy is magnetic because it signals growth, potential, and strength. But over time, if you stop pushing yourself, if you become complacent, if you lose the hunger that once made you different, that energy begins to weaken. Attraction fades not because she suddenly changed, but because you stopped feeding the very fire that made her see you as extraordinary. A woman doesn't just want to admire who you were when you met. She wants to witness who you are become as life moves forward. She wants to see you evolve in your purpose, expand in your wisdom, deepen in your character. She wants to know that she is with a man who does not fear growth, who does not resist change, who does not settle for average when greatness is within reach. That continuous unfolding is what keeps her inspired, what keeps her connected, what keeps the attraction alive. It's not just about personal growth either. It's about the effort you put into the relationship itself. Attraction thrives on energy, attention, and intentionality. If you stop dating her after you've won her heart, if you stop listening, if you stop surprising her with presence and effort, she will feel neglected. Love does not die because two people stop loving. It dies because they stop nurturing what they have. You cannot expect the initial spark to carry you for years. You must reignite it over and over again through consistency, through attentiveness, through the small but powerful actions that show her she still matters to you just as much as she did on the first day. Understand that women notice the little things. They notice when you no longer look them with the same admiration. They notice when you stop asking about their day with genuine curiosity. They notice when your energy shifts from passion to routine, from presence to distraction. And once they notice, the attraction begins to weaken, not because they want it to, but because attraction is tied to energy. If you are not investing energy into her and into yourself, there is nothing for her to be drawn to. Attraction is also deeply connected to leadership. Not dominance, not control, but leadership. The ability to set a vision, to take responsibility, to guide with strength and love. When you remain purposeful in your life, when you stay committed to your values, when you continue to move forward despite obstacles, she feels drawn to that energy. It reassures her that she chose a man who will not crumble under pressure, who will not lose himself in complacency, who will not fade into mediocrity. But when you lose direction, when you give up on your dreams, when you allow life to dull your spirit, she feels the fire between you slowly dim. What men must realize is that attraction is not something you control through charm or tricks. It is the natural byproduct of who you are becoming. When you invest in yourself, when you take care of your body, when you sharpen your mind, when you grow spiritually, when you keep your vision alive, you naturally radiate the kind of energy that keeps a woman captivated. But when you neglect yourself, when you let laziness take over, when you stop pursuing purpose, attraction begins to erode. She may still love you, but the magnetism that once pulled her close begins to weaken. And here lies the truth that so many men avoid. Faithship and relationship requires the same effort on day 1, day 100, and day 1,000. You cannot win her once and then retire from the work. You must keep showing up, keep feeding the fire, keep evolving, because attraction is alive. It is dynamic. It breathes and it grows, or it withers and dies. If you want a woman to remain drawn to you, if you want her to keep seeing you as her source of strength, excitement, and inspiration, then you must remain committed to becoming more than you were yesterday. Respect is one of the most underestimated forces in a relationship, yet is the very foundation upon which love either thrives or crumbles. A man can tell a woman 1,000 times that he loves her, but if his actions show disregard, if his tone carries disrespect, if his choices dismiss her value, that love becomes hollow. Respect speaks louder than love because love is a feeling, but respect is demonstrated through behavior. Love may be spoken, but respect is led. It shows in the way you listen when she speaks, in the way you acknowledge her presence, in the way you treat her when no one else is watching. A woman can forgive many things, but when she feels disrespected, a part of her heart begins to close off. And once that door shuts, it is difficult to reopen. Men often mistake affection for respect, thinking that showering her with gifts or physical attention is enough to prove their devotion. But affection without respect is shallow. A woman wants to feel cherished, not because of what she can offer, but because of who she is. Respect means valuing her voice, even when it challenges yours. Respect means recognizing her individuality, her dreams, and her boundaries. Respect means showing consistency, keeping your word, and standing by the principles you claim to believe in. It is not about agreeing with everything she says, but about honoring her perspective as meaningful. When a man practices respect, a woman feels safe, valued, and truly seen. Respect also extends to the way you carry yourself. A man who disrespects himself through laziness, dishonesty, addictions, or lack of discipline cannot fully offer respect to a woman. She watches how you treat yourself, how you handle your responsibilities, how you speak about others, and how you respond to adversity. If you lack self-respect, she will find it difficult to trust your respect for her. A woman admires a man who lives with integrity, who values his word, who protects his dignity, and who refuses to compromise on his character. That is the kind of man whose respect carries weight because it is backed by substance, not pretense. Think about how fragile love can become when respect is absent. Words turn sharp. Silence becomes punishment. Small disagreements grow into large battles, and the connection that once felt unbreakable begins to fracture. A woman does not need constant validation, but she does need constant respect. She needs to know that even when you are angry, you will not belittle her. She needs to know that even when you are disappointed, you will not humiliate her. She needs to know that even when life feels heavy, you will not make her the target of your frustrations. Respect is what keeps love from becoming toxic. It is what allows passion to remain healthy and disagreements to remain constructive. There is also another layer of respect that often goes unspoken, respecting her trust. When a woman chooses to be with you, she is placing in your hands something fragile and sacred. She is giving you her loyalty, her vulnerability, her dreams. To betray that trust, to play with her emotions, or to take advantage of her faith is one of the deepest forms of disrespect. Many men underestimate the silent weight of loyalty. They think they can separate their actions from their words, but women sense betrayal and energy before evidence. Respect is not just about what you do when she is present. It is about what you refuse to do when she is not around. Respect also means allowing her to grow without feeling threatened. Too many men feel insecure when their woman shines, when she achieves, when she steps into her own power. But true respect celebrates her growth, encourages her ambition, and takes pride in her success. A woman who feels supported in her journey will give back tenfold in love, but a woman who feels belittled or held back will quietly distance herself. Respect requires strength because it asks a man to lead with confidence, not control. It asks him to empower rather than dominate, to uplift rather than suppress. And perhaps the most important truth is this: without respect, love cannot survive long term. A relationship may survive without constant passion. It may survive without perfection, but it cannot survive repeated disrespect. Love without respect turns bitter. It turns resentful. It turns painful. But love with respect deepens over time. It becomes richer, becomes stronger. It becomes unshakable. Respect is not grand gestures. It is the daily commitment to honor her as equal, as your partner, as someone whose soul is as significant as yours. It is the foundation that holds everything else in place. And without it, no amount of affection can fill the emptiness it leaves behind. Her silence often speaks louder than her words. Yet many men overlook this truth because they are trained to listen only to what is spoken. A woman communicates not just through language, but through energy, body language, small gestures, and unspoken signals that carry layers of meaning. When she is silent, it does not mean she has nothing to say. It often means she has already spoken in ways you did not hear. It could mean she feels unappreciated. It could mean she feels unsafe to express her truth. It could mean she has lost trust that her words will be received with care. Silence is not emptiness. It is a reflection of what has not been understood. A man who learns to read silence understands his partner on a deeper level. He notices the shift in her eyes, the way her body withdraws, the sudden stillness in her presence. He recognizes when laughter is forced, when a smile is masking pain, when her quiet is filled with unspoken disappointment. Women rarely stop caring suddenly. They stop speaking because they feel unheard. They stop repeating themselves because their earlier words were dismissed. They fall silent not because they no longer feel, but because they feel too much and have run out of ways to explain it. That silence is a signal, and if ignored, it grows into distance that cannot easily be bridged. Silence also carries within it a test. A woman watches how a man responds when she pulls back her words. Does he dismiss it and carry on as though nothing has changed? Does he get irritated and demand explanations? Or does he pause, observe, and approach her with gentleness, giving her the space to reveal what her silence is holding? A man who listens beyond words shows a woman that he values more than the surface level. He values the essence of her being. He is attentive not just to what is obvious, but to what is hidden. Many men misinterpret silence as peace. They assume that because she is not arguing, everything must be fine. But in truth, silence is often the beginning of the end. Arguments may feel uncomfortable, but they show that she still cares enough to fight for connection. Silence, however, means she is withdrawing into herself, choosing her own company over yours, protecting her heart from more disappointment. That is why a wise man never ignores silence. He treats it as a language, one that must be studied and respected. There is a depth of feminine energy that cannot always be articulated. A woman may not always be able to explain why something hurts, why something feels off, or why she feels distant, but her silence carries those emotions, waiting for a man strong enough to lean in without judgment. This requires patience. Because silence is not something you break by force. It is something you gently invite into conversation. A man who pressures her to speak before she is ready only pushes her further into withdrawal. But a man who provides calmness, who shows through presence that her silence is safe, eventually earns the truth hidden within it. Silence can also be a mirror for a man's actions. When she no longer reacts, when she no longer argues, when she no longer engages, it often means she has accepted that you will not change. That acceptance is not peace. It is resignation. And once a woman reaches that place, her love begins to shift. She no longer expects effort. She no longer waits for understanding. She no longer hopes for change. She simply becomes silent. And that silence is far more dangerous than anger. Because anger still connects, silence disconnects. To understand a woman's silence, a man must learn to read subtleties. He must pay attention to the times she used to share her excitement, but no longer does. He must notice when her laughter becomes less frequent, when her texts become shorter, when her eyes no longer light up the way they once did. These are all forms of silence, quiet indicators that something inside her is dimming. And unless a man responds with awareness, respect, and care, that silence will eventually become permanent. Silence also reflects the emotional space you have created for her. If she is silent because she feels judged, because she feels that her words will be turned against her, because she feels her emotions will be dismissed, then the silence is a shield. She's not quiet because she has nothing to say. She is quiet because speaking costs her too much. This is why creating emotional safety is essential. When a woman feels safe, she will open her heart fully. When she feels unsafe, she will retreat into silence. And once she retreats, the distance only grows with time. The truth is, silence is not absence. It is presence in another form. It is a message waiting to be decoded. It is a cry disguised as calm. It is a wall built from past wounds. And if a man truly wishes to connect with a woman, he must learn to hear silence as clearly as he hears words. He must understand that every pause, every quiet moment, every withheld thought carries meaning. Silence is her way of seeing if you are truly paying attention. If you can feel her even when she does not speak, she will test your strength. Not because she wants to break you, but because she wants to trust you. This is something many men misunderstand, and because of that misunderstanding, they often grow frustrated, defensive, or even resentful. A woman's tests are not about cruelty or control. They are about safety. She needs to know if the man she has chosen can stand firm when life gets difficult, if he can remain centered when things don't go his way, if he can handle her emotions without collapsing under the weight of them. These tests are not obvious, and they rarely come with a warning. They show up in subtle ways, in moments of disagreement, in questions she asks to gauge your conviction, in times when she challenges your patience, and even in silence to see how you respond. When a woman tests a man, she is not asking him to dominate or to overpower her. She is asking him to prove his steadiness. She is observing whether he can remain calm when tension rises, whether he can think clearly when emotions run high, whether he can lead without arrogance but with quiet confidence. A woman knows that life will bring storms, and she does not want to stand beside a man who crumbles at the first sign of pressure. She wants to know that if she leans on you, you will not break. That is why her tests are not about winning or losing an argument. They are about proving whether you can handle the weight of leadership in the relationship. Sometimes her tests will come in the form of disagreement. She may push back on your opinions, not because she wants to fight, but because she wants to see if you truly believe what you are saying. Do you stand on conviction, or do you bend easily just to avoid conflict? She doesn't want a man who is careless with his beliefs, but she also doesn't want a man who is rigid and stubborn. What she wants is to see if you can hold your ground with respect, if you can defend your perspective without belittling hers, if you can balance strength with humility. Other times her tests are emotional. She may express herself in ways that seem overwhelming, not because she wants to create chaos, but because she wants to see if you can remain stable in the storm of her feelings. She wants to know if you can absorb the intensity of her emotions without shutting down, without running away, without making her feel that she is too much. A woman's heart is full, and sometimes it spills over. When it does, she wants to feel that you are capable of holding that space with patience. If your response is to withdraw, to attack, or to minimize her feelings, she sees weakness. But if your response is calm presence, if you show her through your energy that you are not afraid of her intensity, she feels safe. There are times her tests are quiet. She may not speak much. She may not argue. She may not show frustration. Instead, she watches. She notices how you handle challenges in your own life. She observes how you respond to failure, how you treat strangers, how you deal with pressure. She tests not with words, but with silence, to see if your actions align with the man you claim to be. Because women know that words are easy, but behavior tells the truth. If your character is weak, she will feel it. If your discipline falters, she will sense it. If your strength is only for show, she will uncover it. Many men view these tests as nagging or unnecessary drama, but the wise man sees them for what they are, opportunities to prove his steadiness, not just to her, but to himself. Life itself will test you, and if you cannot handle the small storms in your relationship, how will you handle the hurricanes outside of it? A woman is not trying to be your enemy when she challenges you. She is preparing you, measuring you, and seeing if you are built for the long journey together. These tests are not about perfection. They are about consistency. She doesn't need you to never stumble. She doesn't need you to never feel fear. She doesn't need you to have every answer. What she needs to see is that when you fall, you rise. When you fear, you still move forward. When you don't know the answer, you stay calm and seek it rather than panic. That steadiness builds trust in a heart, and trust is the root of lasting attraction. Every man must realize that strength is not just physical, it is emotional, mental, and spiritual. A woman will test all of these dimensions because she knows life will demand them all. She will test your patience because the world will test it too. She will test your discipline because life requires it. She will test your loyalty because storms will try to shake it. And in those tests, she is not seeking your weakness to shame you. She is seeking your strength to believe in you. Loneliness is a reality that every man must face, even when he is in love, even when he is surrounded by affection, even when he has someone who cares deeply for him. This loneliness is not about being abandoned or being an unloved. It is about the inner battles that no one else can fight on your behalf. A woman can stand beside you. She can support you. She can encourage you. But there are certain weights you must carry alone. Every man has moments where he feels the weight of his responsibilities pressing down, where he questions his purpose, where he wrestles with doubts that cannot be spoken out loud. And in those moments, no matter how much love surrounds him, he feels the solitude of being the one who must ultimately face himself. Many men fear this loneliness, believing it is a sign of weakness or a reflection of failure. But loneliness in love is not about absence. It is about the truth that your deepest growth comes from within. A woman cannot complete you. She can only complement you. She cannot fight your inner demons. She can only stand near as you confront them. She cannot resolve the doubts in your heart. She can only remind you that you are more than them. But at the end of the day, you must be the one to rise from your own darkness. This is the loneliness that men must learn to accept, not as a curse, but as a part of their journey. It shows up when you are making decisions that affect both of you. And the weight of responsibility feels like it rests only on your shoulders. It shows up when you carry unspoken fears about your career, your future, your ability to provide. And you cannot fully explain them because they are tied to your sense of manhood. It shows up when you wake up at night staring in the ceiling, knowing that no one else can take away the uncertainty you feel inside. Even in love, even in partnership, you are alone with those thoughts. And that solitude is not a punishment. It is the path every man must walk to discover his own strength. This loneliness also appears in the quiet choices you make, the discipline you practice when no one is watching, the sacrifices you take on without announcing them, the battles you fight in silence so that she feels secure. A woman may never know the full extent of what you carry, but you carry it anyway because you understand that part of being a man is facing certain struggles without broadcasting them. The unspoken reality is that no matter how supportive she is, there are corners of your soul she cannot enter. Those places belong only to you. And yet this solitude is not something to run from. It is in those lonely moments that you meet your true self. It is in the silence of your struggles that you develop clarity, resilience, and vision. A man who cannot sit with his loneliness becomes dependent, constantly seeking validation, constantly leaning on others to escape the emptiness inside. But a man who accepts his solitude learns to draw strength from it. He learns that his worth does not come from being surrounded, but from being grounded. He learns that love is not a replacement for inner stability, but a reflection of it. Women often sense this truth more than men realize. She may love you, she may support you, but she knows there are battles you must fight alone. That is why she looks not only at how you treat her, but at how you handle yourself. She watches whether you collapse under pressure or stand tall in silence. She feels whether you seek her to fill your emptiness or whether you are strong enough to face your emptiness and still offer her stability. When a man can embrace his solitude without fear, a woman feels more secure because she knows he will not burden her with every storm. He will not crumble when she needs him steady. He will not seek her to heal what he must heal himself. This loneliness is also the crucible where leadership is forged. A leader cannot always rely on others to carry him. He must carry himself. A man in love must understand that while companionship is beautiful, while intimacy is fulfilling, while partnership is sacred, none of these erase the fact that his deepest growth is his responsibility. He cannot outsource his courage. He cannot outsource his vision. He cannot outsource his discipline. He must cultivate those in the quiet of his own company. The paradox is that when a man accepts this loneliness, he actually becomes more connected because he no longer clings to a woman out of fear of being alone. He no longer demands that she soothe every doubt. He no longer places on her the impossible burden of being his savior. Instead, he brings to her a complete version of himself. A man who has faced the silence of his own mind and emerged stronger. And that is the man who earns her respect, her admiration, and her trust. A woman does not want a man who needs her to escape himself. She wants a man who can stand alone but chooses to stand with her.